I absolutely love the descent, but that's because I grew up from the age of 13 going down that particular descent. So my property is on this course out of Helensburgh. We'll go straight past it as they drop down to the coast road.
Here we go. This is what the riders will face. They go down that descent. They make their way down to Wollongong, down to the roads that we've seen so far. The run down there is 27.7 kilometres. They go down to the Mount Kira loop. That's a loop of 34.2 kilometres. Then they go on to the 6 laps of the city circuit, and that's the circuit that we've seen the road races on so far. So it's a demanding loop this afternoon, and it gives riders all sorts of opportunities. Flag drops, motorbikes move away, and this race is now on. Kilometre 0, and no major attacks right away. Again, Simon, you've looked at the wind, and the wind looks like it's going to deter some riders early on in the race. I took a crash here.
Oh, this doesn't look good. We've lost one of the Belgian riders.
That was a very, very fast crash there on the right-hand side of the road. Just looked over her shoulder and clipped the wheel of the rider in front.
Well, this would be absolutely devastating for Demi Vollering because she showed such great form this season, finishing second in the Tour de France. She was one of the strongest climbers in the race. So I imagine she was going to really make her mark on this race on that Mount Kira circuit. So not being able to take to the start is a big blow for the Dutch team.
There's the rundown of how the race is looking right now. Gladys Verhulst leads 28 seconds on Burton and now Uliak. Kerner is in the gap. And then the peloton is now approaching about a kilometre behind as Verhulst continues with this solo breakaway into the headwind, heading down towards the first passage of the line before she goes out to Mount Kira. Coming up then to complete the run-in as we make our way out to the Mount Kira loop. And this Mount Kira loop is going to be a 34.2 kilometre loop before we come back here to complete the 6 laps of the course. The leading rider at the end of the run-in from Helensburgh is Gladys Verhulst of France, with her advantage intact of 34 seconds. Across the line for the 2 chasers. The gap 34 seconds. As Kerner of the Danish team works her way across the line. She's still got a lot of work to do to chase down these riders in front of her. Out then towards Mount Kira.
Now Kerner there, she's in a really difficult position because she's in the middle of those 2 groups, so she's getting no advantage or no help from anybody around her. So she has a lot of work to do to bridge across to the 2 riders in front of her. Now the peloton is coming through the finish line for the first time in today's race. It's really interesting to see the dynamic of the peloton, where each of the teams are riding, what teams are riding well together as a group, what riders are sort of spread out individually through the bunch. On the right-hand side of the road to the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the Australian team all lined up together. On the opposite side of the road, identified the German team also riding well together.
Well, this time gap now to Gladys from France out in front is coming down quite quickly. She's just going to do her best to get as far up this climb as she can out in the lead. Gladys Verhulst of France. And she's got some sweet help and encouragement from Banana Man.
Gladys Verhulst is doing a momentous ride at the front of this race. The gap is still 35 seconds. She's completely solo. She's on this mountain up to the top of Mount Kira. This 9-kilometre climb, and no one's getting anywhere close to her, despite the little bits of jumping around going on behind her. And we're probably about the midway point of this climb, and still the gap is maintained.
Yeah, she's doing a fantastic job out front. Now she's just settled into her own rhythm on the climb, so she's settled into a strong tempo there, and she's really maintaining a good advantage over the peloton. From this point, she's going to be hoping to get over the top still in front of the peloton, or if a small group does break away from the group, they catch her either over the summit or on the descent. So she's then got some help out front.
Shan Van Amroy, she'll keep pushing on because she's in the under 23 category, hoping to get back and stay in contention.
This is a little bit of a surprise as well. Shireen van Anrooy has been dropped by the peloton. This is the rider who won the women's under-23 classification for the UCI this season.
But Verhulst hits the descent now with 15 seconds advantage.
Over the top of the climb and heading back down to Wollongong now for Gladys Verhulst. Thanks very much for joining us. This is the UCI Women's Elite Road Race Championship. If you've just tuned in now, welcome along. We're down in Illawarra, New South Wales in Australia. The pace being set by the German squads as they go to the front to just try and lift the tempo a little bit, seeing whether they can just put the riders under pressure.
And let's see what they can do with that. You can see they've been marking all the moves very well, riding towards the front of the peloton.
Looks like Romy Kasper is bringing back the group. France, though, putting another rider up towards the front. I really do think they believe that Juliette Labousse can win this world title this afternoon. The way they're riding indicates that Labousse is, without doubt, their out-and-out leader, fourth in the Tour de France, and can climb and can sprint.
Really makes a big impact on the latter part of the race. So that constant refueling throughout the day is very, very important.
First hour of racing, 35.7 kilometres an hour. And that includes that long climb of 9 kilometres. And they are allowed to feed then from the cars today. Heidi Franz taking a bottle on board, goes back to the peloton, looking after her team leader. Backstead, who's finished twice as a bronze medalist in the Junior World Championships, rides for the Trek Segafredo team, and I'm sure highly motivated this afternoon after seeing the performance of her sister, which was nothing short of phenomenal earlier on today and in the time trial. Suddenly growing a big advantage. Julie van der Velde, Eleanor Backstead, Caroline Anderson.
Well, van der Velde, she obviously has a rider back in the peloton, Lotte Kopecky, who is one of the favourites for this race.
There's a rider we haven't mentioned at all so far during the race. We haven't put a curse on her at all. Lotte Kopecky, you cannot discount her surely with this sort of terrain.
No, the big question was if they had raced really hard up Mount Kira, it would have changed things for Lotte Kopecky, but she'll be feeling very confident at this point that the race has been very controlled.
Throughout the last few days, Rochelle, we've enjoyed watching this climb, and there's been at times a small group of fans, and our super fan, she's been there on her own throughout the entire race. She's been wearing a pink onesie. She's been wearing a swimming costume with goggles at times when it's been raining. We've seen her dressed up as a pirate and various other things. Even Zoe Backstead noticed her earlier. We just saw her. She's been joined by thousands of fans. She's now not got such a key place to run up and down at the side of the road. And we must just acknowledge what a great fan she's been. Eleanor Backstead.
Eleanor Backstead getting some great support from the side of the road. And look how many gels she has in her pocket.
She's making sure her nutrition is good this afternoon.
Annemiek van Vleuten moves to the front. Sarah Roy controlling things as well. You can see the pain on the face of Annemiek van Vleuten. That's not a face we usually see on the climbs, but she doesn't look comfortable.
I wonder what would happen if there was a big acceleration in this peloton. You would go then after the finish line as you turn right away from the coast.
Well, if you were looking to attack at a point on the circuit that's not on the climb, it would make sense to attack, shortly after crossing through the finish line, because then you are sheltered from the headwind and you have some more tailwind sectors to try and build up an advantage.
Because not every rider can attack on the climb, can they?
No, not every rider can attack on the climb. In fact, very few riders in this peloton are going to be capable of attacking on the climb. So like this group of three that we've seen off the front, they attacked as they hit the circuit well before the climb, where they'll have the opportunity to enjoy some shelter from that strong headwind, and they quite quickly built up an advantage.
Zoe Backstead cheering on her sister as she makes her way across the line. Zoe Backstead cheering on Eleanor Backstead as they cross the line. Bianic now coming across the line. This is quite a big advantage at 1:17.
Just under 85 kilometres to go. I think we will soon expect some real action from the peloton.
5 laps of racing officially to go now. The peloton all bunched. No major moves in this World Championship from the peloton. Just to report that Shirin van Anrooy has returned to the group. So she has got herself over Mount Kira, chased her way back on and got herself back safely into the peloton. This fan clearly got a Scottish heritage. Maybe thinking about Glasgow.
Ooh.
And now we suddenly see Caroline Anderson is unable to go with the accelerations of Van der Velde and Backstead as they make their way up this climb.
Backstead looking to just lose the wheel a little bit there as well.
And a real grind to the top. It just shows when the legs go, that's it, game over.
Yeah, that's right, Anthony. When your legs go on a very steep climb, like this one up Mount Pleasant, you do come to a complete stop. Whereas back in the peloton, you can see the energy is still there. You can see that they're attacking over the summit of this climb, keeping the pace really high.
Australia and Italy looking to exert their authority on the front of the race. Yet again, it's Elena Cecchini of Italy who is exerting her authority over the front of this peloton. It's very easy, isn't it? When we get to the end of this World Championship, it's very easy just to look at the winners in the race.
As close as you can to the finish.
Here's our 2 leaders. Eleanor Backstead, one of the riders who qualifies for the under-23 race. Van der Velde on the front. Backstead came to prominence as a rider who scored medals in the World Championships as a junior. And now look at this, the show of strength. The entire team of Italy on the front, led by Elena Cecchini. Following her is Marta Bastianelli, the sprinter, who has now made her way back into the peloton. Heading up to complete another lap, and it's Van der Velde and Backstead with 4 laps of racing to go. The advantage for these 2 riders is now 56 seconds on the peloton. Backstead and Van der Velde leads. As we see Bianic now of France with Caroline Anderson. Those 2 riders cross the line. The deficit 54 seconds and the peloton closing in. And as they go across the line, Italy are certainly starting to turn the pressure on. The 2.
Let's see what Italy do on this climb. They made it very obvious that they wanted to start to close down these riders who only have a 15-second advantage, just like that. They still have the steepest part of the climb, a little kick, 15%, 14% for these riders. And they may not make it to the top of this climb before the peloton closes in.
I'm a bit worried about this dinosaur. Riders at the back from France now starting to lose some riders, unfortunately. The French squads have ditched 3 riders after all the work they've done. Gladys Verhulst is suddenly gone. Jade Wheel has gone as well. Being distanced is Marta Bastianelli again. She is now dropped. It might be the last time she sees the front. Lizzie Holden is dropped for Great Britain. Also distanced is Marta Jaskulska of Poland. Just up ahead, and suddenly riders are being ditched out of the back. Leah Kirschman in her last World Championships. There she is, a rider for Canada who is retiring after this race. One rider who's just been dropped, which is a surprise, is the American hope Kristen Faulkner, stage winner of the Giro Rosa on 2 occasions this year, and she's finding the tempo too much. Kristen Faulkner about to be distanced for the United States of America. Backstead and Van der Velde still looking strong.
They are still looking strong. They would have really wanted to press this climb ahead of the peloton, and then they may actually extend it again. But the peloton mean business now. You can see the pressure on the pedals and the pace was a little bit higher, but no real attacks just yet. You can see Elisa Longo Borghini, number 3. She wants the race to be hard this lap, but she hasn't made her move just yet. There's 60 kilometres to go in this women's road race. One of the Italians now just popped off the front.
This is Cecchini.
Now, I don't think this would have been an attack from Cecchini. I imagine one of the riders would have just lost her wheel, maybe through a corner, opening up a little bit of a gap. So Cecchini has just kept the pressure on here, and she has opened up a bit of an advantage over the peloton. I do expect an immediate reaction behind.
Cecchini jumps across to the leaders. She's going to add a little bit more firepower.
But they don't want to be the only teams making this race hard, so what they're doing by putting Cecchini out in front is putting pressure on the other nations to use some of their riders to make this race hard.
A clever move then by Italy, using maybe just a little bit of a change in circumstances as a gap was left. Now we see an attack on the right-hand side. Looks like Ellen van Dijk has decided it's time to go to the front. So as you outlined, Rochelle, this is trying to move the other teams to play their cards. A clever move by Cecchini.
That can assist with the chase, as you can see. Amanda Spratt down near the back just having a chat with a teammate.
The peloton now lining out. A lot of riders in a little trouble as they just try and stay in the wheels. Conversations going on, but further down the back things are a little bit more stretched. Suddenly though, the racing's coming back together. End of breakaway. Sharon van Anrooy has brought the race back together for the team of the Netherlands.
Well, it's good to see Sharon van Anrooy come good again, because she looked as though she was really in a lot of difficulty in the early parts of today's race. So she recovered from those initial efforts, and now she's putting in a big contribution for the Dutch team.
Well, she was dropped, wasn't she, on Mount Kira early on in the race. Obviously just went through a terrible patch, got herself back on. It's certainly a little bit grayer again. 54.5 kilometres of racing to go. Spila Kern has just attacked for the team of Slovenia in that green-coloured jersey, just trying to edge off the front. Here's a moment of the attack. Makes a move up the outside, decides that it's time to go.
And as Simon has pointed out a few times, it's a very difficult place to get a significant break into a blockhead wind on the way into the finish. She makes her way around the protected corners and establishes a little break.
As we get ready for 3 laps of racing to go. Our solo leader with 3 laps to go, Spila Kern, riding for Slovenia with a slender advantage of around about 10 seconds on the chasing peloton. Led now by the Italian squad. There's Zoe Backstead cheering on the riders. 36.347 is the average speed. Guazzini and Cecchini lead the peloton across the line in time for the next ascent of Mount Ousley and Mount Pleasant. The rainbow jersey is renowned in the world of cycling. It was first presented to the women's peloton in 1958. It was won by Elsie Jacobs on that occasion. It's really making a difference. Some riders are being distanced on this climb now. We start to see the accelerations happening. Rochelle, this is a really tough moment in this world title now.
This is what we wanted to see, the pressure go down at the front and to really see who's got the legs today. So Elisa Longo Borghini just to the left of your screen, looking very, very comfortable. Amazing job by Elena Cecchini. Ashley Moolman-Passio for South Africa, she's always well positioned. And the first real look we get at Niamh Fisher-Black, and she does look comfortable just sitting in there.
Grace Brown goes clear. Simon, clever racing by Grace Brown, having been dropped over the climb.
Well, now Grace Brown has identified she doesn't have the legs to go with the big favourites on the climb itself. So now she's either going off the front to take the pressure off her teammates, or trying to forge a group away to get an advantage over those stronger climbers before they hit the climb for the next lap.
9 riders just stretching this peloton, opening up a little bit of an advantage. Now it all calms down again. The race all coming back together. So it was Grace Brown who was tracked immediately by the team of the Netherlands, who do not want this to go away. We'll wait and see whether there is another concerted attack by the Australian team. They may be looking for the opportunity. They've won so many of the last few years of world titles. They took the victory in 2017, 18, 19 and 20. The Italians in 21.
And they've rode those races very differently. They've controlled everything from the front this year, just sitting in nicely, knowing that they've got a fast finisher. There's Marianne Vos, looking comfortable and well protected.
Heading in to complete the lap. Another attack on the right-hand side comes again from Australia as they fire another rider up the road.
Sarah Roy this time for Australia, and that is a powerful attack from a rider that has done a lot of work on this Wollongong City circuit. Sarah Roy rides clear and puts a gap between herself and the peloton. She would have to have very, very tired legs. And
coming up to search for the lap board and find out how much further there is to go. The answer is going to be 2 laps of racing for the Australian, and now putting the Italians in with the need to chase this one down. Suddenly this race has got very, very hard indeed. 2 laps to go. Australia lead with Sarah Roy.
We're really coming down to the business end of this race now, and the Italians are feeling a bit of the pressure. The rain starts to fall at the finish line. Well, as soon as they hit the rise, that's where Sarah Roy struggles, and the Italian team now not too worried about the breakaway, but more so just trying to keep the pace really high for Elisa Longo-Borghini.
Here's a moment then. Cecchini starts to up the tempo. Here's the attack of the Polish powerhouse. Kasia Niewiadoma exerts her influence on the race. She starts to attack. Niamh Fisher-Black is there, Leanne Lippert is there, and suddenly there are riders being parachuted out of the back.
Yeah, the strongest climbers in the race are now starting to make their mark on the race. Kasia Niewiadoma really pushing the pace. She's being matched by Lippert.
Balsamo, the defending champion, has gone. She is distanced. We say goodbye to a rider who has been a wonderful world champion, but it's not going to be her day. She hauls her way up the climb. Lippert, Niewiadoma, Elisa Longo-Borghini, Elise Shabby, Niamh Fisher-Black. Coming across is Cecilia Ullrich-Ludwig, Ashley Moolman-Passio, and also there, I think, is one of the other Italians.
Persico.
Persico is there too. Van Dijk has got an employ. It's a big attack now. Leanne Lippert, she goes clear. Look at the way the German is firing on all cylinders as she goes clear of this peloton. Longo-Borghini attacks to try and go across. Ashley Moolman-Passio goes too. Lippert with a concerted effort to get rid of all the riders.
Niamh Fisher-Black fighting really hard at the back there. It's Leanne Lippert, Elisa Longo-Borghini, and Ashley Moolman-Passio
over the top of the climb, and it's a really strong group of riders trying to come back. Niamh Fisher-Black and Elise Shabby and Annemiek van Vleuten fighting for all she is worth.
Persico going at the back there now as well, but it was Leanne Lippert who really drove it hard over the summit of that climb. She knows that if she goes over the top with that entire group, they may start to look at each other and sit up again. She knows she's got a good gap here, and she needs to keep pushing.
Lippert is producing a wonderful ride this afternoon in this World Championship. Lippert and Longo-Borghini, the 2 riders at the front, a slender advantage.
It looks as though it's Ludwig there and Niewiadoma that are chasing behind, followed by Moolman-Passio.
They'll have to work very well together, because there is no doubt that Leanne Lippert and Elisa Longo-Borghini will commit 100% at this point.
Elisa Longo-Borghini, double finisher on the podium in the Olympic Games. She's finished bronze medalist in the World Championship. She knows this is her best moment, and it looks like it's going to come all back together with 5 key riders at the front of the race.
Well, the 5 strongest climbers in the race have assembled at the front now, and it looks as though it was Leanne Lippert who looked over her shoulder once or twice, and a big acceleration behind from Moolman-Passio and Niewiadoma have brought these groups back together.
Coming up then to complete the penultimate lap of racing. 5 of the best climbers in the world are now ahead of this peloton. The gap is 24 seconds. They have got one climb of Mount Ousley, one showdown on Mount Pleasant, and the run back to the race finish. Get ready to decide who's the world champion of the Women's Elite Road Race. 5 of the best climbers in the world are about to decide it, or the peloton is going to bring them back. 1 lap of racing to go. The gap is now 24 seconds. And Australia and the Netherlands are throwing everything they've got at it to try and bring this back to a different conclusion. Across the line with the peloton led by Amanda Spratt. 23 seconds is the deficit. Simon, it's come back together. It's all joined up. 13 kilometres to go. And Lippert's attack has caused all sorts of panic, but it's all back together. An attack now from Brodie Chapman as she goes clear. Immediately onto her wheel, one of the Italian riders joins in. Looks like Pasico. Ellen van Dijk, having done all that work, doesn't want another group to go away.
It's Bertizzolo there from Italy that has followed Brodie Chapman off the front. They don't have much of an advantage as yet.
Another attack, and it's from Switzerland. It looks a little bit like Marlon Reusser. Marlon Reusser attacks, stage winner of the Tour de France, Femme avec Zwift. She goes clear. A big move. The Italians trying to close this down with Bertizzolo again. Again, the same climbers come to the front. It's Lippert, Ashley Moolman-Pasio, Cecilia Tripp-Ludwig, Elisa Longo-Borghini as they try and bring this rider back. It's Kasia Niewiadoma, Leanne Lippert, Ashley Moolman-Pasio, Elise Shabby, and at the back, Cecilia Tripp-Ludwig. Longo-Borghini not there this time. They catch Marlon Reusser. 5 riders, same 5, going for glory. Moolman-Pasio, South Africa, Longo-Borghini, Italy, Niewiadoma, Poland, Germany's Leanne Lippert, Denmark, Cecilia Tripp-Ludwig, and Elise Shabby of Switzerland jumping away across. Here goes another acceleration. Lippert is the rider who is really on form. Back now to Annemiek van Vleuten with Niamh Fisher-Black.
And Lotte Kopecky there as well. These riders will have to have the ride of their lives to bring this to the finish. There will be a strong chase behind them. Leanne Lippert, she has had a sensational ride, hasn't she? One of the strongest riders on the climb. Now Kasia Niewiadoma just wants to punch over the top.
Now it's all about the run down to the finish. 5 riders, it's the same 5 who were the strongest on Mount Pleasant the first time they attacked. Shabby is there, Reusser is just swinging all over the road. Annemiek van Vleuten with that fractured elbow, with Niamh Fisher-Black, the best young rider of the race. What a race this is turning out to be. The chasing group is edging so close. Pasico hanging on the back. Who else is in there? Lotte Kopecky is in that chasing group. What a race that would be if she could come through and take the victory. Also in there is, I think, Marlon Reusser is still in that group. And there's the gap between them. 5 riders chased down by a group of 8.
Well,
here goes the attacks. Riders now sense that they've got to get themselves across. Lotte Kopecky is gambling with everything she's got to try and win this world title for Belgium. Sierra surfing the wheel of Lotte Kopecky. Sierra knows that in order to win this title, she needs to be led out by the Belgian. And it's all going to come back together as they make their way underneath the red kite. 1,100 metres to go. 1,000 metres to go. And it comes back together. Niewiadoma is there. Lotte Kopecky is in with a huge chance.
Here comes
Annemiek van Vleuten attacks on the right-hand side. Van Vleuten goes clear and everybody looks. Annemiek van Vleuten goes clear for the Netherlands. They have let her go. Annemiek van Vleuten with a fractured elbow attacks hard. An inspirational attack. She takes it and she goes now for glory. 300 metres to go, and Annemiek van Vleuten looks set to win the world title. Everyone looks at each other. Van Vleuten has pulled this one out of the hat. Here goes Sierra. Here goes Lotte Kopecky. Van Vleuten on the right-hand side. Is it going to be rainbow bands? Kopecky sprinting for all she is worth. On the line it's going to be incredible. Annemiek van Vleuten somehow wins a world title.
Unbelievable. I could see that happening when she was just off the back of that chasing group, and it came back together, and she just took... What an amazing ride by Annemiek van Vleuten.
He was off the back from this front group. She accelerated the way he seated. It was Ashley Moolman-Pasio who was stuck on the front. No reaction, and it was the gap she needed to go all the way to the line.
Absolutely incredible. Annemiek van Vleuten, having suffered in pain throughout the entire race, been dropped on numerous occasions, jumps away with 600 metres to go and time trials to the win.
Absolutely unbelievable. She has ticked all the boxes this year. Has any rider in one season won at the 3 Grand Tours and taken home a World Championship? It may be a very first in the history of cycling, and you can see the dominance in the sprint by Lotte Kopecky. She had a perfect ride until the last 200 metres, and she was quite frustrated. All sprinters would have reacted if they could have. You know, she was on the other side of the road and everybody was at their absolute limit.
What an incredible moment as Annemiek van Vleuten takes the world title. Look at Lotte Kopecky. They just left it too late.
Yeah, she was certainly the strongest sprinter with the freshest legs. She rode a perfect race. She hit them at the perfect time. She caught that bunch really at the right time where they just realised, okay, we're going to have a sprint here, a little bit backed off the pace, and Annemiek van Vleuten comes in with some high speed.
Here's confirmation then of the result of an incredible finish to the Women's Elite Road Race. Annemiek van Vleuten wins in 4 hours, 24 minutes and 25 seconds. Just behind her, Lotte Kopecky takes the silver. Silvia Persico of Italy takes the bronze. The riders who ignited the race, Liane Lippert takes 4th place. Such a wonderful climb by her today.